With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin. The licensing authority met this morning. 2 show cause hearings were held. The first for H&S Entertainment, doing business as Dina's on Stevens Street in Hyannis. They were up before the board for closure without notifying the licensing authority. David Dunheim, representing the licensee, explains.
This board may remember this started last fall. The premises was under a prior license. We spent considerable amount of money to refurbish the property. The license couldn't issue at that time. The delays because of the prior license and then outstanding tax issues. By the time we got this property open, so much money had been spent, and the season quite didn't kick off the way it was anticipated. So we did, because of that and staff changes that were unforeseen, close for a period of time. As I indicated to Mr. Scali a couple weeks ago, we have been in talks with another entity who was interested in purchasing the premises, and we'd hope that we can continue those discussions through the end of the year and wrap them up shortly. If not, this license obviously would become an issue. But it has been closed for more than 2 weeks, and I apologize to the board and to the commission for not having reported that. We'd like to keep that active so that we could reopen in the event of a transfer.
Who has control of the property at this time?
We do, and we've been working consistently with the landlord. The landlord has, like the town, has been very cooperative with us in terms of trying to find a successor.
The board continued that hearing until license renewal after the first of the year. Meanwhile, no punishment for Puffer Bellies following its show cause hearing today. The often discussed bar was before the board facing an alleged violation. An underage man was arrested by Barnstable police in July. He told police he'd been drinking at the establishment prior to his arrest. Officer Mark Cabral testifies.
Going back to July 18th, which was Sunday night and Monday morning, could you give us a brief description of the call you were sent to?
It was dispatched out to the Craigville Beach parking lot for a report of a stolen town taxi cab. When I arrived there, we found the cab in a different parking lot. It had been already abandoned, and the suspect had fled the area. There was an accomplice that was placed under arrest immediately. Following a canine track, we were able to locate and arrest a suspect that had fled a few hundred yards away and was hiding.
Could you speak into that mic?
Sir.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Officer, if you hit that button, you can raise it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel.
Way to go. Way to go.
So after locating both suspects and placing them both under arrest, we later learned that the underage suspect in question was age 16. He was severely intoxicated and had been drinking earlier in the night at Puffer Bellies. The accomplice that was placed under arrest was a DJ that night at Puffer Bellies.
So the night that you made the arrest down at Craigville Beach, you transported him in your cruiser?
Yes, I did.
And during that transport or prior to that transport, did you advise him of his rights?
Yes, I did.
And as you spoke to him, did you make any observations on your way into the police station?
I observed that his speech as he spoke to me was heavily smelling of an alcoholic beverage. It was thick and slurred. His eyes were glassy and bloodshot. He was clearly intoxicated, and admittedly intoxicated, as he stated to me that he was drunk and had been at Puffer Bellies.
And on your way in, did you ask him any questions in regards to his motor vehicle license?
He stated that he did not have a license. He initially told me he only had a permit.
And once you got to the police station, did you perform any field sobriety tests on the subject?
I did. We gave him a portable breathalyzer test in which he read a .11 blood alcohol level. I also gave him what they call the alphabet test. He failed that. And we gave him 2 other physical tests, which he passed marginally.
And roughly about how many hours after your first encounter with him did you give him the PBT test?
The PBT test wasn't given to him till about 3:15 a.m., so a good 2 to 3 hours since his last drink.
During the booking process, did the underage individual then identify himself in a different way or in using some type of different identification?
Yes, upon searching him, I came up with a Brazilian license. The license was determined to be a forgery, and it identified him as being born in 1990, which makes him 5 years older than his actual age, birth date of 1995.
And during your experience as a police officer, have you had some experience with these fake Brazilian driver's licenses?
I've encountered them several times in the field. I've also received a training block on how to identify forged or altered licenses.
Did you ask the subject about the license in particular?
I did. He responded that he had bought the license in Brazil prior to coming to this country. He had bought it as a fake and had planned to use it to get into bars and to be able to drive a vehicle.
And did he state to you at all on that particular night whether he had used that ID anyplace?
He said that he had used it to get into Puffer Bellies, and he had been drinking and purchasing several drinks there all night.
During the course of this whole thing, did you solicit any conversation with him as far as where he'd been or where he had been drinking at all?
I did, and he responded only that he had been drinking at Puffer Bellies.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Did you ever talk to anyone at Puffer Bellies regarding the incident?
Attorney David Lawler countered, saying these counts are nothing more than hearsay.
Now, officer, did you observe any wristbands or stamps that would indicate that he was at Puffer Bellies?
I didn't make a note of any, so I would say not that I can recall, no.
Because it is your practice that if you, as a trained officer, you're trained to observe anything out of the ordinary, and you're trained to report that. And you did draft a report, is that correct?
I did. Yes, I did.
And do you have that report with you today?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And now you talked about the individual being intoxicated. On page 2 of that report, you did provide that there was a 750 milliliter bottle of cupcake vodka. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And that 750, that's about one of those bottles, the standard?
Yes.
Or is that what, or 750 on the larger bottles?
It's a good-sized bottle.
Good sized bottle. And it was half full?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the certainly a individual that age with a 1.1, your experience in training that the amount of alcohol that was not in that bottle certainly could have led to him being as intoxicated as he was. Isn't that correct, sir?
It certainly could have, yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, I understand that hearsay to some point is allowed in these proceedings, but this is so far beyond hearsay. Even Officer Marr, when he initially made his comments, the office, that the possibility that this individual was drinking at Puffer Bellies, I know of no standard in law of the possibility, and there's a possible that anything could happen. The issue, you know, generally in law, there's, in the civil sense, there's preponderance of the evidence, which is 50% or 51% and greater. There's obviously the much higher standard in the criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. But the possibility standard is virtually anything in this world is possible. And those are the words, you know, spoken by the officer themselves. And that's why I wrote them down, because it kind of just hit home.
The licensing board ultimately agreed, issuing a ruling of not guilty.
I can see why the officers brought this case before us. It's unfortunate the witness probably is not available, because that would be obviously evidence that would be very helpful. One thing I don't think that was mentioned enough was the fact that I believe that the other passenger in the vehicle stated he worked at Puffer Bellies or had worked that evening at Puffer Bellies, which gives some credence to what the young man had to say. But you know, I'm a little torn on this, and I can see counselor's view that without the witness, and even though we don't need probable cause, probably would be a stretch to say that the preponderance of evidence points to a guilty finding. Any further comment?
With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.